Hey everybody, Kyle here. I've had my Nikon Z6 camera for 4 weeks now. 4 weeks in, I'm loving the ergonomics and the feeling of this more and more. It's getting colder, I'm having to wear heavier gloves, and I'm having a much easier time operating the Z6 than I ever did operating my D600 or D70. My favorite is probably that large rear dial, how it's right on the corner. It's so much nicer than the style I'm used to. It really makes it easy. I've been playing with some of the menus and noticed some neat little tricks that have made my life a lot easier. I do pointless vlogging like this. I do serious stuff, and then I do pictures that I want to look nice. And sometimes when you have a memory card, it can be confusing to sort these things into different folders easily and efficiently. In the camera menus, you can set the file name that the camera uses to save all your files to, but you can actually save different file names for different user settings or user profiles. So when I'm vlogging, I have that set to U3, and it gives my initials as the file name, whereas U1, which is set up more for fine art photography or fine high quality video, more manual settings, that one sticks with the, I think KZ6, Kyle Z6. If I have to plug the camera in and then copy a bunch of files for a client, they're all right there, they're together, they're easy to sort, easy to find, and I'm not going to accidentally give a client some of my vlog crap. So that's handy. That's really nice. So if you're looking at the sky with a polarizer on, as you're twisting it, that histogram, you can actually see it moving back and forth. So it makes it really easy to see that point where you've darkened the sky to its maximum level or you have the polarizer turned all the way off. If you're really wanting to get that polarizer perfect, it's good. Same thing if you have a variable neutral density filter. One of the things I found that was really nice with this camera, again, you can use the histogram to kind of figure out the exact points. I found mine, the scale printed on the outside isn't actually accurate. Its darkest point is actually 2 stops before it says its darkest point is. So yeah, there's something about mirrorless that makes it really easy to pixel peep and really test out your gear. I messed around with the HDR mode a little bit. HDR isn't a new feature. It was in the older D600, but I found it required a tripod. It really didn't handle anything that was moving. And if I'm going to set up a tripod and do an HDR, I'm not going to trust the in-camera algorithms. I'm going to take it in software and do all that myself. So it was a feature I never really ended up using. So I was curious if the IBIS would make it a little better. And in some cases it does, but I find still the times where I'd want HDR would be if I'm shooting landscapes or if I'm shooting urban night landscapes. Both of those are times where you're going to have wind and cars and people moving, and it's just, you're not going to get the result. So I really don't find HDR a particularly useful feature, especially on a camera with such a wide dynamic range built in. The active D-lighting, I don't really use this one because I find it really screws up the way my RAW program editor interprets those files. It really throws everything off. But if you're shooting JPEG, I never really used it on my Nikon D600 because it would create some really obnoxious looking halos. It gave it that fake HDR look. The Z6 seems to control that a lot better. It works quite well. I feel like I've been doing mostly tests on the video features rather than the photographic stuff. That's because I feel like the video is where there's been the largest improvement. For still photos, maybe a half-stop performance and dynamic range or something. It's not a massive life-changing change. It is an improvement. I wasn't expecting it to be noticeable, but I'm actually very happy with the results I'm getting from this. One of the biggest problems I'm having with this camera is the years of training myself with the D600. I'm finding I'm sort of imposing some of those old rules onto this camera. Like if I'm recording video, I won't want to go higher than ISO 800 because on the D600 that was as far as I could push it before it would look like garbage. Where on this camera, 6400 is still more than usable. Or if I'm shooting stills, I'd never like to go above 1600 on my 600, where with this camera, 6400 still looks quite spectacular. I just let the auto ISO do its thing and go all the way up to 51,000, and I'm generally happy with the results. Then again, I'd rather have a clear, grainy image than a blurry, smooth image. Another thing I've noticed is when you have that IBIS, that built-in stabilizer on the sensor, it is really easy to allow your technique to get sloppy. So on one hand, it feels kind of bad, like I'm letting all these skills I've spent the last 15 years developing, just letting them all erode now that technology makes it better. And is this a skill that I should force myself to maintain? Or, is proper camera technique, is it something that's like knowing how to rub two sticks together to start a fire, or cursive writing, like a skill that used to be relevant but is now completely useless? It almost feels like the skill is out of photography now, where you just point and click and the camera does all the work and you'll get great results almost every time. It's really moved photography away from being technically competent is enough to the camera handles all that for you. So now what are you going to bring to the show? What are you going to say? Because there's a lot of beautiful images out there, but when you look at them, what do they make you feel? What do they make you think? All right, anyway, enjoy. Thanks for watching. Bye. Here's a hedgehog. Aw, little guy.